Welcome back. My name is Attorney Tom Grieve. I'm a former state prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. I recently had the opportunity to observe Colion Noir go through some real-life training scenarios with the United States Concealed Carry Association. If you have not already seen those videos, check the description box below so that you can check them out. What we did, was we put Mr. Noir in a stress vest, and he entered into a scenario which I can assure you he did not know what would happen. And then we started rolling the cameras. We had a crew of actors, and everybody had stress vests on, which will actually electrocute them if they get shot by one of the facsimile, one of the fake firearms that basically shoots lasers. That's what we did. And then we got to talk about it, and we got to talk about the legal breakdown of it. What I'm going to be doing today for you right now is I want to give you kind of a sample of what a prosecution closing argument could look like against him based on the first scenario. There will be likewise a defense argument that will be coming out in the not too distant future, so check back for that. And of course, if you just found this channel browsing through, I invite you to do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, comment, tell us what you think. I am treating you like the jury. I want to hear your feedback, but keep in mind, this is only the prosecution. There will be a defense case coming out soon. Let's see what the prosecutor has to say. Self-defense is lawful. Self-defense is good. But self-defense is not why you, the members of the jury, are here now. When someone needlessly takes another's life, there's a word for that. And it's not defense, it's homicide. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when you sift through the videos and testimony in evidence, it becomes clear that there can be no reasonable doubt that what you witnessed unfold was in fact a homicide. But we reviewed a lot of evidence together, and I understand this trial has lasted many days by now. I want to sum up for you briefly why you should find Mr. Colion Noir guilty of homicide of Mr. Kyle Murphy. In order to use deadly force in self-defense, you need to first be in reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm. This can also apply if you're using deadly force in defense of another person. In that case, you must be able to show that the person who you are defending was themselves in reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily harm. Let me be clear. When Mr. Noir pointed his firearm at the victim, at Kyle, and pulled the trigger, that was in self-defense. I understand that there are good people out there who would claim that firing first means that you are never firing in self-defense, but that is simply not the law. When the robber pointed the gun at Mr. Noir, that allowed Mr. Noir to fire first in self-defense. That we grant, but that is not why you are here today. You are not here because of Mr. Noir's first shot, or even his second shot, nor his third shot, or fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh shot. You are here because of his final shot, his eighth shot, the fatal shot to Kyle's back. Mr. Noir opened fire when Kyle was posing a deadly threat. He fired his next string of shots after Kyle had moved his firearm away from Mr. Noir and to the other armed citizen standing by the couch, thereby making Mr. Noir's immediate follow-up shots a defensive other. I grant you that. But then something happened. First, as you plainly saw in the video and heard testimony from the government's expert who broke down the video of the incident frame by frame, Kyle's handgun malfunctioned. And not just a small malfunction, it was rendered inoperable. After the first shot, it jammed and could not be used again. Ladies and gentlemen, you saw the clear as day footage where the victim was doing his best to pull the trigger repeatedly on a gun that simply would not and could not fire. This happened within feet of Mr. Noir, directly in front of him, who you also saw from the video, and had his attention and sights locked onto the victim. He saw this. He knew that the threat was over right then and there. And even if he did not process that, he made the conscious, knowing, and intentional decision to keep pulling the trigger. What does that mean? It means that the time for self-defense was over. But Mr. Noir either chose to ignore it or was incapable of exercising the proper care and responsibility that comes with using a firearm. You shoot, you reassess. You don't just keep pulling the trigger. That's on Mr. Noir. This is one theory of the state's homicide case against Mr. Noir. The second comes a few moments later. I want you to picture yourself back at the scene. You're in the coffee shop. Kyle, the victim, was racing out of the coffee shop, retreating as fast as he possibly could, armed with nothing more than an inoperable firearm that everyone had the opportunity to see from mere feet away. Mr. Noir broke off his string of 7 shots to pause and reassess. That is what he saw. It was clear as day. Then he fired again, striking the victim in the back. There was no threat. How was the retreating, lone, already wounded victim with an inoperable firearm and no other weapon to pose a threat? But that did not stop Mr. Noir. That did not stop the 8th shot. And just like that, if this had not been a homicide before, it had just become one right then and right there. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to remember the testimony that you heard from the victim's dear mother, Vivian Murphy. She testified about how when Kyle left their home that day, he was excited. He was excited about applying for jobs and putting his checkered past behind him. He was excited about being on, what did he call it? The adventure of sobriety. She insisted that he would never hurt a soul. I'm not asking you to look upon Kyle with the eyes of only a mother, but to remember that he too was just a flawed man who was trying to get his life together. What I'm asking you to do is to consider the needless loss of life. Not only the victim, Kyle, but also Vivian, who said that a part of her died that day. Most of all, I want you to remember that you will be charged by this court to seek the truth. And when you weigh the evidence, when you look at the one inescapable fact here, that Mr. Noir pulled the trigger needlessly and without cause, the truth will tell you what you have to do. I ask that you return a guilty verdict for Mr. Colion Noir on the charge of homicide. Okay, so there it is. That's the flavor, and a very, very short one too, of what a prosecutor's closing argument might look like in a case like this. In real life, there's a really good chance it could be an hour or longer, but who wants to sit around and watch that? So I try to tie in a lot of that aspects and some of the emotion that a prosecutor may try to inject into that case, which hopefully if they're charging as a homicide, they do believe in. Keep in mind, there's going to be a defense side coming out too. I'm not saying that I personally believe Mr. Noir and under these circumstances should be convicted. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is, look, pay attention. You saw the before, the during, and now the after of how basically just going to a coffee shop on a date, like we did in this scenario, can turn into something far worse. So you need to understand that all these things tie together, and these split-second decisions can have a life-changing impact, not only on you, but as others as well. All right, jury, it's now up to you. Comment what you think of this. Should Mr. Noir be convicted? And keep in mind, there's a defense video that will be coming out shortly as well to kind of give you the mock-up of what a defense closing argument may also look like. So be sure to check that out. It's going to be dropping in maybe a couple days or a week. We'll see how this video does and kind of go from there if folks are interested in it. Let me know if you are interested in seeing the defense side or if this was good enough or just not really interested in it at all. But again, it's really important for me to kind of bring you from down the lens through what it looks like in an actual courtroom. What does this all turn into? How do these facts weave and play together? Take a moment though, post up your comments below, and I want to see what people think. Should Mr. Noir be convicted of this? Check out the USCCA video. Also, if you've not already done so, obviously check out Mr. Colion Noir's channel, fantastic channel, as is the USCCA channel as well. I appreciate you all stopping by. If you've not already done so, all the YouTube stuff, please be sure to subscribe, click like, hit the notification bell. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.